Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to another video. Today, I want to talk about night anxiety. Getting anxiety whenever it's starting to creep up into the evening time, whenever the sun starts to go down, whenever darkness starts to arise. I talked about morning anxiety yesterday and titled it, morning anxiety is the worst. Well, evening anxiety is right there with it for me. The morning and evening times were really rough, and a lot of times they would bleed into each other. So if I had a really bad night, usually it meant I was going to have a really bad morning. If I had a really bad morning, my day was going to go like crap, and then guess what? I have a bad night. Now for me, when it came to nighttime anxiety, it was a lot worse in the beginning, and I think this is the common theme with a lot of you guys. It's definitely a common theme with the people that I talk to whenever it comes down to coaching. It starts with just this severe crippling amount of anxiety that happens whether you have just some symptoms that come up or you have an anxiety attack or a panic attack. And then after that, it's like the body does not want to calm down. It doesn't want to go to sleep. And the reason that it's hard to go to sleep, there's various reasons that I'll discuss, but your body's trying to keep you alive. It's trying to keep you on edge so you can fight or run. It's like you trying to sleep in a trench during World War II. You know what I mean? Like you're going to be jumpy, you're going to be startled, you're going to be always on edge. You're going to get very shallow sleep, if any sleep. Probably not good quality sleep. And guys, I get it. It is so rough because if you're not getting good sleep, your anxiety does tend to get worse. And it can just be this cycle that becomes really, really hard to break. And you can do it. I mean, trust me, there's a lot of people that I coach, they were able to break that before they even got into contact with me. It was very difficult, it's hard, but they were able to get some momentum, and we'll talk about some things that can help you as well towards the end of this video. But anxiety is a momentum game. Just like trying to get past morning anxiety, you got to use momentum to help you get past night anxiety. It starts out rough and tough, and you have to make some sacrifices, and you have to do some things that are going to be hard in the beginning. Everything is easier said than done when it comes to anxiety recovery. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with. But again, back to what I was saying, for most people in the beginning of their anxiety, which can range from a few days to a few weeks to a few months or a year, that first part of anxiety is the worst and the most severe. And I think it's because we're just not as aware as to what's going on. Maybe you didn't stumble across a video like mine, or we may have dealt with some little levels of anxiety in our past, but nothing like this. Or, you're having panic attacks that you may think are heart attacks. You're having all these crazy symptoms that you think are some type of a disease or cancer. Your acceptance is basically at zero. You don't have a lot of coping mechanisms, a lot of grounding techniques. You don't know how to talk to yourself. You don't understand the subconscious-conscious relationship. So there's a lack of awareness and education as to what you're going through. So everything is just scary and frustrating, and we don't really realize how much harm we're causing by being frustrated and giving fearful responses and even things like angry responses to our subconscious when it keeps us up at night. We don't really realize the damage that we're doing. So we continue to do that. And what happens with the night anxiety, guys, is we create this association. It's what it is. You can create an association with anything like anxiety in driving, anxiety at work, anxiety at 3 p.m. for whatever freaking reason, anxiety in the morning, and then anxiety at night. You create this association, and what happens is it just takes one really bad night for you to hope and anticipate, or hope that it doesn't happen, but anticipate that it probably will happen, and to be in fear of it happening again. And we are writing our own story whenever we do that. But unfortunately, in the beginning, with a lot of these associations, and especially if you don't have any awareness or education, or you don't watch videos like this, we don't realize the harm that we're doing. So we start to anticipate feeling like crap once the sun starts to go down. And that was what it was like for me. Once that sun started to creep down, and I would have all these thoughts of like, oh my God, I didn't get any sleep last night. My heart was racing, my chest was hurting. And then the next day was horrible. I had to get up and go to work. And then a lot of days I would call in. Like, I was in my early 20s. I didn't have a family at the time. That probably was a detriment to my recovery process. So I didn't have as many responsibilities. So, for me to just bounce from one job to another job, it wasn't a big deal for me. I had a lot of server jobs. But it was hard for me to get to work because I didn't get any sleep. and I would feel like crap the next morning and have the horrible morning anxiety like I talked about in the last video, excuse me. So, you know, that was rough for me, but I would have these thoughts of like, oh my God, I need to get sleep tonight because I need to keep this job, or I don't want to lose this job, or I don't want to call in, or I don't want to feel like crap in the morning. And guess what? Just having all these fears just aggravated it. And it was like I was writing my own story, and I was like, I'm going to have anxiety tonight. So something that has to happen, you have to change your belief system. If you believe that tonight's going to suck, it's definitely going to suck. If you believe you're not going to get any sleep like you haven't the past few weeks, then you're definitely not going to get any sleep like you haven't the past few weeks. If you feel like it's going to be crappy and your day tomorrow is going to go crappy, probably is. And why is this the case? Because right now your subconscious is going to believe everything negative that you say or think or fear 100% of the time right now, because you're wired to fear right now. That's why whenever you try to say good things in the beginning, we give up, because guess what? The subconscious doesn't believe it. So what I'm asking you to do is to change your perspective on your evening and your night, and to start saying, tonight can be better. You know, tonight I can manage my anxiety a little bit better. Tonight I can get some sleep. Tomorrow morning is going to be better, right? The problem is when you first start trying to make those declarations, or give those subliminal positive affirmations to your subconscious, it doesn't want to accept them, because what have you been doing for the past few weeks or months or whatever, a year? You've been thinking tonight's going to suck. Tonight's going to suck. I'm not going to get any sleep. I'm not going to get through this. And then you start to also have those fears of like, am I ever going to get out of this? I'm never going to be able to get good sleep again. I'm going to have to be on sleeping medications the rest of my life. Oh my God, this is going to be the new me. Oh my God, like this is me now, right? You have to change your perspective and your belief system. And I guess going back to your perspective, you have to change your perspective of nighttime. It can't be like just gloom, and you can't just associate it with gloom, darkness, panic, anxiety, heart rate, chest pains, jumpiness, nightmares, nocturnal panic attacks. Write some nighttime affirmations, and this part might sound cheesy for some of you, but we have to start somewhere. And I've talked to a lot of people. They used to love going to bed. They used to love snuggling with their spouse. They used to love putting on a TV show and laying and getting comfy in their bed and their covers. Write some affirmations about that. Start to create this reality that nighttime can be safe, that things can go good tonight. You have to change your belief system. And maybe it is hard for you to fully believe that right now, but do you want to believe it? Write that down. Come up with 20, 25 of these. Start reading them in the morning, read them in the afternoon, read them before bed. Tonight can be better. You have to give yourself the possibility that it can be okay tonight, that things can go good. And it's not just for night anxiety, it's for anything. If you struggle with associations or triggers with driving or going to work or having morning anxiety, write some affirmations specifically. Affirmations in general, you need to have those, but affirmations specifically for those triggers or associations that you have, so you can start sending subliminal messages and start building trust. You have to get your subconscious warmed up, and that might take a little bit. And guys, I beg you to hang in there. I beg you, hang in there. It takes time to break these associations down. But at night, the sun would start to go down, it'd start to get dark. My symptoms would start slowly, it's like slowly turning the volume up. I remember my chest would just start to tighten up as the night went on. And then unfortunately, guys, like I got so deep into it, like I wouldn't get sleep sometimes for 2 days in a row. And then that was the cycle in the very beginning, maybe the first month or two when this was fresh and new. I wouldn't get, I'd lay there, I'd feel my heart rate, I'd get up, I'd panic, I'd walk around, pace around. Some nights I went to the ER. Some nights I'd try to talk to my girlfriend at the time, or I'd call my mom. She was a nurse. I couldn't relax with anything that was healthy anyways. I didn't know anything about meditation or affirmations. There weren't YouTube channels like this for me to watch. I was alone. I was alone, man. This is like in the dark ages of YouTube. Anybody that talked about anxiety had like a lab coat on, and I felt like I couldn't relate. So I didn't know that this was normal. So I felt super alone. And think about it, think about what nighttime can represent sometimes for some of us. Loneliness. The world is quiet. You can't even find anything good on TV, right? It's hard to phone a friend. without annoying them or waking them up. It's hard to call your parents or call your mom like I did. A lot of nights she didn't pick up. Well, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So you're by yourself. There's no birds chirping outside. There's nothing. So that can help with this association, right? Like this loneliness, this, like I didn't want to be alone in the evening because I didn't want to die or start to die and I couldn't contact somebody or get a hold of somebody, and this unfortunately led to me spending the night at the ER a couple times. That way I could just crawl in there. You know, if I was having a heart attack, at least I didn't have to wait for the ambulance to come get me. But I would have the chest pains, I would have the panic attacks, I would have the fast heart rate. I know my blood pressure was high. I would have the numbness, the tingling, I'd have the crazy racing thoughts. And here's another aspect of night anxiety. You're trying to get still so you can sleep. So guess what's gonna happen when you're just laying there? I'm not saying that you should get up and all that crap. I'm not saying any of that. You should just sit there with it, but not give fearful responses and give it that entertainment. But when you're sitting there in the beginning and you don't know how to respond to yourself, all you're doing is saying all the scary crap and like, oh my God, because you can feel your heart more. You can feel these symptoms more. They're louder because there's nothing else going on. You don't have a lot of distractions. You're not able to have conversations with people. Maybe your shift at work is not at night. You know what I mean? It's during the day like mine was. So you're not getting busy with anything. You're trying to wind down and trying to just focus on sleep. But our symptoms and our thoughts get louder and we don't know how to process those. So that frustrates us. And then, you know, we get caught up in that. And then here's the thing. The more that you want to fall asleep, the harder it is to fall asleep. The more that you want to fall asleep, the harder it is to fall asleep. Anxiety is going to always do the opposite of what you want it to do, right? So in those moments, and I typically use that statement for symptoms, but in this case, I guess, you know, stop putting so much pressure on yourself. Start telling yourself, like, if I get some sleep, that's cool. If not, we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, just having this attitude change and having a perspective change and having a different way that you speak to yourself, less fearful responses, less annoying and frustrating responses, it's going to help. It's going to help get the momentum. You just want to get your foot in the door. Maybe that's an hour and a half instead of 0 sleep. You know, maybe it's 3 hours instead of 1. Maybe you get half a night's sleep and then build off of that and then start to build up your subconscious. Say, see what we did? Look at that. Look what we did. We got a couple hours instead of complaining and be like, oh, it was only a couple hours. I wish I had more. Just like, you have to be a cheerleader to your subconscious for it to start believing in your leadership. You know, you're trying to lead it out of this darkness. You're trying to lead it towards getting better sleep and eventually just your overall recovery. So you got to be a leader. And it also means building your subconscious up. You can't just bash and be super critical. You got to let somebody know that they're doing good for them to be encouraged. That's including your subconscious. So build yourself up, prop yourself up. And then there were nights where, like, I would start to, and I'm just trying to cover some things that I left out. There would be nights where I'd fall asleep and I was struggling with this. Like, I would jolt awake. Dude, that was the worst, like the jolts. I mean, that happens to the best of us, but when you have anxiety, that would happen. I would have really bad nightmares. I would have nocturnal panic attacks where I'd wake up in a sweat. My heart would be beating out of my chest. I would hear, like, I would wake up to loud sounds like that weren't there. There's like nothing, phantom sounds, I guess, or whatever, like loud ringing, a doorbell. One time I woke up to the roar of like a tiger or a lion, believe it or not. I would just wake up to really loud noises that weren't really happening. And then I'd wake up in the morning and my morning would be crappy. So that's my story with it. But the nuggets that I want you guys to take from this: change your perspective of night, write those affirmations, and you have to start having some belief and faith that tonight can go good for you to even have a chance. That's where you start, right there. Change your perspective of nighttime and then have a belief system in place that things can be good tonight. Now, there's so much more that obviously goes into recovery. Check out my course, Elite Anxiety Bootcamp. I'm going to put it down below in the description and in the first pinned comment. It's helping so many people, and the reason that it helps is that it's going to give you a step-by-step process from the foundation to the tools to the recovery process, and it gives you the downloadable materials also to aid you along the way. I mentioned affirmations, there's routines, tons of stuff packed into that course. It's very, very affordable. It's changed lives to be a part of that. And coaching information is down below, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Hit the like button if you got value. Until next time, keep fighting.